Snow had always been my thing. Not in a poetic, snow angel, Instagram caption way, but in a functional, mechanical, keep your neighbors alive kind of way. I lived in North Pine Estates, a suburban HOA neighborhood tucked just far enough into the hills that winter didn't visit us. Winter occupied us. Every December, snow piled up like unpaid debt. Every January, it buried driveways, froze pipes, and turned the streets into skating rinks disguised as roads. The city plows barely bothered with our area, because technically, North Pine Estates was privately maintained. That meant us. And by us, I mean me. I was the guy with the industrial-grade snowblower. Not one of those cute little electric toys you see at Home Depot. No, this was a gas-powered, two-stage, heated handle, LED headlight, eat your driveway for breakfast monster. I bought it after watching 3 neighbors spin helplessly into a mailbox one winter morning. Ever since then, I'd been clearing the main street and most of the cul-de-sacs every heavy snowfall. For free.
No contracts. No payments.
Just neighborly decency. If snow was my thing, Linda Harper was the opposite. Linda was the HOA president, a title she wielded like a medieval weapon. She was in her late 50s, wore beige like it was a moral stance, and spoke exclusively in passive-aggressive email formatting. She didn't shovel.
She didn't plow.
She didn't lift a finger. Your trash bin stayed out 15 minutes too long? Linda noticed. Your lawn wasn't uniformly green? Linda noticed. Your garage door was open while you unloaded groceries? Linda noticed and documented. So when she noticed my snowblower, I should have known it was only a matter of time. It arrived on a Tuesday morning, tucked neatly into my mailbox like a threat wearing polite stationery. I laughed out loud when I read the first line. It has come to the attention of the North Pine Estates Homeowners Association that you are utilizing heavy machinery on HOA-maintained property without authorization. Heavy machinery. Like I was operating a crane. I kept reading. Your snowblower has been observed clearing shared roadways, which constitute common / I blinked. Then reread it. Then sat down. The letter continued. Effective immediately, you are to cease use of your snowblower on HOA roadways. Failure to comply may result in fines, confiscation of equipment, or legal action. Confiscation. They wanted to take my snowblower. The very machine keeping half the neighborhood functional. I checked the signature at the bottom, even though I already knew. I felt something click behind my ribs. Not anger. Not yet. Something colder. I emailed Linda that afternoon. Polite.
Calm.
Documented. I explained that I wasn't charging anyone. That I was simply helping neighbors. That the city didn't plow our roads reliably. That seizing my equipment would hurt everyone. Her response came exactly 6 minutes later. While your intentions may be noted, HOA policy exists to maintain uniform standards. Allowing one resident to perform maintenance creates liability and imbalance. Imbalance.
Right.
I replied again. I asked if the HOA planned to provide alternative snow removal. Her answer? The board is currently reviewing winter service options. That was HOA language for no, but we don't want to admit it. 2 days later, during the heaviest snowfall of the season, there was a knock at my door. I already knew. Linda stood there in a long wool coat, clipboard in hand, snow untouched behind her like it parted out of fear. Behind her were not police. Private HOA enforcement. One of them eyed my garage. Linda smiled the way people do when they believe rules are the same thing as morality. Good morning, she said. We're here regarding your equipment. My equipment? I asked. The snowblower, she clarified. We've received reports it was used again this morning. I didn't deny it. Yes, I said. People needed to get to work. She nodded slowly, as if disappointed in a child. Grants the HOA authority to seize items used in ongoing violations. I looked past her. At the snow. At the untouched street. At my elderly neighbor's driveway across the way. You're really doing this? I asked. Linda's smile tightened. Rules are rules. I stepped aside. Let them walk past me. Let them look at the machine. Let them believe they were winning. Then I said something very simple. Before you take it, I said, I just want you to know something. Linda turned.
What?
I looked her straight in the eyes. I won't clear the streets anymore. She scoffed. That's not your responsibility anyway. Exactly, I said. That night, the storm worsened. Not a gentle snowfall. A full system collapse kind of storm. By morning, North Pine Estates was buried under nearly 2 feet of snow, followed by freezing rain. I woke up early, made coffee, looked out the window, and did nothing. No engine roar.
No headlights. No cleared paths.
Just silence. Cars stuck sideways. Mail trucks refusing entry. Ambulance rerouted. Kids slipping on ice. And at the center of it all, the one stretch of road that dipped just enough to turn into a skating rink when untreated. Without my blower cutting paths and spreading traction, it froze solid. Around noon, I heard shouting. I stepped outside. Linda stood at the top of her driveway, heels useless in the ice, waving her arms at a tow truck that couldn't get close enough to help. Her car was halfway into the street, wheels locked, angled toward the curb like a surrendering animal. I didn't smile. I didn't laugh. I simply watched.
She saw me.
Our eyes met across the frozen road. And for the first time since I'd moved into North Pine Estates, Linda Harper looked unsure. HOA panic, emergency failures, neighbors turning against Linda, and the first official meltdown, legal consequences, public humiliation, HOA collapse, and the final revenge payoff perfect, exactly like viral Reddit/YouTube narration stories. North Pine Estates had officially become a frozen maze. Not metaphorically. Literally. Cars were stranded at angles that suggested panic rather than parking. Driveways blended into sidewalks, sidewalks disappeared entirely, and the roads, once carefully carved by my snowblower, were now smooth, reflective sheets of ice. The kind that laughed at tires. The kind that punished arrogance. And the kind the HOA had absolutely no plan for.
My phone buzzed again.
And again. And again. I finally checked it. North Pine Estates community chat. Is anyone else completely stuck? My kids fell twice trying to get to the bus. Where is the snow clearing? This is dangerous. Then came the message everyone was waiting for. Linda Harper, HOA president, please remain calm. The board is addressing the situation. Remain calm. On ice. Replies flooded in immediately. Sarah M. Addressing how, Linda? There's an ambulance stuck at the entrance. Tom W. Didn't we used to have someone clearing the roads?
No city, yeah.
What happened to that guy with the snowblower? I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Sirens echoed through the neighborhood. They didn't get far. The ambulance slid to a stop near the main entrance, unable to climb the slight incline that led deeper into North Pine Estates. EMTs stepped out, boots slipping, faces tight with frustration. Someone's medical alert system had gone off. An elderly resident, Mrs. Calder, 2 streets over, needed help. Help that couldn't reach her. That's when things shifted. This wasn't inconvenience anymore. This was liability. Linda called an emergency HOA board meeting. Virtually, of course, because no one could physically get anywhere. I wasn't on the board, but I knew people who were. I had a play-by-play text feed lighting up my phone. Board member Linda is freaking out. Board member, she says the snowblower guy abandoned his duties. Board member, someone just reminded her, we told him to stop. I leaned back in my chair, sipped my coffee. Linda tried to regain control the only way she knew how, by rewriting history. According to her, I had acted without authorization, created liability, exposure, then maliciously withdrawn services to punish the HOA. Never mind that I was never contracted, never paid, never obligated. But the board wasn't buying it. One member asked the question that cracked everything open. So, what's our snow removal plan right now? Silence. Linda cleared her throat. We're sourcing emergency services. Another board member spoke up. I just called 3 companies. They won't come out until tomorrow. And the emergency rate is insane. How insane? Someone asked. 6 figures insane. Silence again. Then someone said the words Linda feared most. My phone buzzed with a private message. Linda Harper, we need to talk. I didn't reply. 3 minutes later. This situation has escalated beyond expectations. Still nothing. 5 more minutes. The HOA is prepared to discuss temporary authorization. Temporary authorization. For my own machine. I finally typed back. You came to my house with security to seize my property. Her response was immediate. That was a procedural misunderstanding. I stared at the screen.
Procedural misunderstanding.
I locked my phone, put it face down, and waited. Ice has a way of teaching lessons by late afternoon. The temperature dropped even further. The melted snow refroze into something worse. Black ice. Invisible. Merciless. Linda Street, already the lowest point in the neighborhood, became a frozen canal. Cars that attempted to leave slid sideways, blocking others, compounding the problem. Someone tried to salt the road manually. The salt bounced off. Someone else tried sand. It froze in place. Tow trucks refused entry. Delivery trucks turned around. And then Linda fell. Not dramatically. Not comically. Just enough. Enough to bruise her hip and her pride. Enough to force her to sit in her car, heater blasting, waiting for help that couldn't reach her. And enough for neighbors to notice. There was another knock at my door. No security this time. Just Linda. She looked smaller. Tired. Her beige coat was stained with slush. I need your help, she said. Not asked. I didn't invite her in. You told me to stop, I replied. She swallowed. The HOA made a mistake. You made a mistake. She flinched. We'll rescind the notice, she said quickly. We'll issue written authorization. Retroactively. And? I asked. And we'll cover fuel costs. I waited. And liability, she added. The HOA will assume full responsibility. I looked past her again. At the frozen street. At the neighbors trapped in their homes. At the chaos. I want it in writing, I said. She nodded. Tonight. And I continued. No more threats. No more letters. No more enforcement nonsense. She hesitated. Then nodded again. Yes. I opened the door wider. The sound of salvation, the neighborhood heard it. The roar. The unmistakable sound of an engine fighting winter and winning. Garage lights flicked on across North Pine Estates like a stadium. People came out onto porches. Some clapped. Some filmed. Some just watched in relief. I didn't look at Linda as I fired up the snowblower.
Didn't need to.
I started with the main road. Cut clean paths. Carved channels. Restored order. Within an hour, emergency vehicles could move again. Within 2, the streets were passable. By the time I shut the engine off, the neighborhood was quiet. Safe. Functional. Again. But something had changed. As I rolled the snowblower back into my garage, I noticed something. People were looking at Linda differently. Not with fear. Not with respect. But with questions. And Linda noticed too. Because power, once exposed, doesn't refreeze so easily. By the next morning, North Pine Estates looked normal again. Cleared roads. Passable driveways. Kids walking to school without sliding into parked cars. Delivery trucks moving freely. On the surface, everything appeared fixed. But underneath, cracks were spreading fast. Because once people see how fragile authority really is, they don't forget. Every homeowner received an email from the HOA. Subject: Temporary Winter Maintenance Authorization. It was signed by Linda. Carefully worded. Legally cautious. Painfully obvious. It officially stated that I was authorized to clear snow using my personal equipment, with the HOA assuming liability and costs. What it didn't say was why. But everyone already knew. Within minutes, the community chat lit up again. Not with panic this time. With analysis. Wait, so we had snow removal and the HOA shut it down? So the frozen roads were avoidable? Does anyone else remember Linda threatening to take his snowblower? That last message changed the tone completely. Because I wasn't the only one who remembered. By lunchtime, screenshots began circulating. Emails. Notices.
Hoa warning.
People started comparing notes. And what they found wasn't pretty. Linda had issued multiple enforcement actions over the years for things that directly affected safety, blocking residents from installing reflective driveway markers, denying permission for private contractors, rejecting salt storage requests for aesthetic reasons, all under the banner of uniformity. Uniformity had almost cost someone their life. Mrs. Calder's family was furious, and they weren't quiet about it. A post appeared in the chat from someone who rarely spoke. David K., retired insurance adjuster. I've reviewed the HOA bylaws and liability coverage. If the ambulance delay resulted in injury, the HOA and individual board members could be personally exposed. That message landed like a grenade. People stopped arguing, stopped venting, and started thinking. Linda went silent. 2 days later, the HOA announced a special homeowner meeting. In person. Mandatory. Held at the community center. I arrived early.
Not to speak.
Just to observe. Linda sat at the front table with the rest of the board, posture stiff, smile brittle. She didn't make eye contact with anyone. When the floor opened for comments, hands shot up immediately. Not angry hands. Confident ones. Why was volunteer snow removal stopped? Why wasn't a backup plan in place? Why were threats made instead of solutions offered? Why did it take an emergency to reverse the decision? Linda answered the first few. Poorly. She deflected. She minimized. She blamed process. Then someone asked the wrong question. Why did you send security to seize his equipment? The room went silent. Linda hesitated. And in that hesitation, she lost the room. That action, she said carefully, was within procedural authority. I didn't speak. Didn't need to. Someone else stood. Procedural authority nearly froze our neighborhood shut. Applause followed. Not loud. Not dramatic. But unanimous. Someone motioned for a vote of no confidence. Another seconded it. Linda protested. Cited rules. Cited protocol. But power doesn't live in paper when people stop believing. The vote wasn't even close. Linda resigned from the board entirely a week later. Quietly. She moved out 3 months later. Her house sold fast. Ironically, the new owners asked me one of the first questions I'd heard in a while. Hey, you're the snowblower guy, right? I smiled. Create an official winter response plan, fund emergency snow removal contracts, designate volunteer coordination roles, and most importantly, never interfere with safety again. They also reimbursed me fully for fuel, maintenance, and wear. And then they did something unexpected. They asked. Not ordered. Not threatened. Asked. The final storm of the season hit hard. But this time, I wasn't alone.
3 neighbors joined me.
Shovels. ATVs. Salt spreaders. We cleared the roads together. Just people helping people. As I shut down the snowblower that night, I looked down the street that once froze solid. It was clear.
Dry.
Safe. HOAs love rules. But rules without wisdom are just ice waiting to break someone's leg. Power without accountability freezes fast. And sometimes the simplest response to control is to step back and let consequences speak. Because ice doesn't argue. It just reveals.